Welcome, welcome. Good morning. I'm just enjoying this. This pillow is strategically placed in the sun, so we have lighting today and some effects. Just giving you a little morning spectacle here. All right, so I posted the topic of reflection today on my Instagram story, keeping it pretty simple today. We've been kind of diving into some complex themes over the last week. But today I thought it would be nice for us to all reflect a little bit on gratitude. It's said often, sometimes so often that it can start to fall on deaf ears, but when we can look for opportunities to express our appreciation, life tends to find us more things for which we can be appreciative of. And I know, even in the midst of circumstances that may seem difficult or trying or confusing, harrowing, depressing, there truly always is something or many things to be grateful for. All of you that have a phone that you're able to tune into and participate in these sessions, functioning bodies that can move and breathe, and the wherewithal to be here and to connect in this way, have at least 3 or more things to be grateful for. So what I wanted us to do this morning before we get started is just to sort of go on a rampage of appreciation with ourselves, in my case with my journal, and just stream of consciousness, as many things as you can write down this morning for which you can express some appreciation is what I'd like for us to do. Shortly I'm going to bring my good friend Sarah Girard on this. I always want to say on the call. This isn't a call, on the live stream. And Sarah's actually going to be leading our practices this morning, some movement and some breath work. Hi, Jen. Sarah is one of my dearest friends. We met many years ago. Actually, the very first place I ever practiced yoga when we were teenagers. And we've gone on to lead many retreats together and kind of intersect each other's lives over the last decade plus. But she's a phenomenal teacher, a wonderful, beautiful woman, and we'll be hanging out this morning. So please stick around, and we'll bring her on shortly. For now, spend a couple minutes reflecting upon your items of appreciation. We're reflecting this morning on gratitude, keeping it simple. Simple yet potent. So here I am making a list of the things that I'm grateful for today. Oh, I'm grateful for you too, Mom. welcome. Spend just a few more minutes here. We start each of these sessions with a journal prompt, a topic of reflection. Today's topic of reflection is simply gratitude. So nothing is too big or too small, too complex or too simple to be grateful for. And if there's any part of you that's feeling any inkling of gratitude for even this pandemic and what it's sort of bringing up, that's okay too. Things can be more than... There can be two truths about something, right? Something can be both horrendous and beautiful at the same time. Something can be both detrimental and constructive at the same time. And acknowledging our gratitude doesn't mean that we're denying our pain. Okay? It's just acknowledging our gratitude. Good evening, Moscow. Must be cold there. Do some practices to warm you up. All right, I'm going to invite my friend Sarah Girard on the call. If you're just joining, Sarah's going to be leading us this morning in our movement and breath practices, and we'll see what she has in store for us. There she is.
Hello.
That beautiful face. Good morning.
Hi, handsome. Turn you up.
Turn me right up.
Turn you up, man.
That's all it takes.
Oh, I'm so grateful for Rocky Heron.
Oh, I'm grateful for Sarah Girard, yoga.com.
Oh.
Good to see you. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great today because I get to see you.
Okay.
Connection, interaction, and to connect with the individuals here is really wonderful. And also the practice of gratitude for me is a game shifter. You know, whatever negative mood or space that I was in previously, the moment that I step into gratitude, everything shifts. So
Well,
I'm really thankful to be
thanks.
here. Yeah.
Likewise. Thankful that you're here. And I was telling you before, but it's been very meaningful for me to be able to share my morning practice with everybody. And also in sharing something, you're also not able to fully indulge in it yourself. And so I'm grateful to be able to be led a little bit this morning and get to be a participant. So
it's wonderful that opportunity to give generously as you do so often, and then to also shift and to receive. That's
down to shift.
shift.
Shift happens.
Let's downshift.
Let's do it.
So, as I mentioned, gratitude is such a shift in perspective for me because, and I think it is for so many, that when we can acknowledge the abundance of our lives and what we have, then it takes us out of maybe a habitual kind of scarcity, realm, and it's into that state of living generously as you do so well. What I'm going to be focusing on today is the gift of perception. As you know, and as many people who kind of have connected in my teachings and have known me for years know that I only have one eye. So what I perceive and see, as what we all perceive and see, is very different from everybody else. And I've noticed so I had to catch folks up on the short rendition of the story. When I was about 2.5 years old, I had a very rare form of cancer in this eye, my right eye. And so it's a prosthetic. I cannot see out of it at all. And so what I've noticed in having just one-sided vision in my life is that there's a shift in my physical movement. And this is obviously the lens that I see through, but everybody, regardless if you have two eyes that work and function really, really well, we all have dominant sides, and there are asymmetries to our body. And there are ways in which we can rebalance our proprioception and the ways in which our bodies work and efficiently throughout our day. So this is something that I'm going to share with us today in our movement. And another thing that you and I have spoken about, Rocky, over the years, I was thinking, is it 15 years that we know each other?
I mean, I posted the picture I posted on this Instagram story. I think that was like 12 or 13 years ago.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm so grateful to have met you at the very beginning of like my yoga teaching journey, and to have you as a friend and a mentor through these years. It's super cool.
Oh, well, ditto. The feeling is cool.
But what we've spoken about over the years is both of us have lived in many different places, in Los Angeles, in New York, in San Luis Obispo, where we took that photo, and you as well across the world, that our physical practice very often necessitates different movement comparative to what our lifestyle is. In Los Angeles, there's a lot more sedentary quality, right? We drive. In New York, there, before all of this, there was much more kind of a frenzied pace and walking everywhere. And now we're in this new shift where we are kind of stuck at home, not able to go outside. And so what I'm finding, what I need is that a lot of energy is moving through my body, feelings, emotions, all kinds of stuff. And what's something that has been really beneficial for me is shaking and moving things through. And this is inspired by, ancient shamanic techniques, but also if you want somebody modern, Jim Gordon, who's the director of the Center for Mind Body Medicine over in Washington, D.C., does incredible work with people who are living through trauma and working to metabolize that trauma. And his recent book, The Transformation, is really, really wonderful. So that's what we're going to be doing today in a very long-winded way of saying we're going to shimmy and shake. And we're going to start to kind of shift our perception and in some kind of twisting manner. So we're going to start, because we're just waking up, we're going to start as if we're still in bed. So lay down on your backs, and I'll see if you can see me. I might need to adjust my setup. You're gonna lay all the way down onto your back. Yeah.
I got a new shag carpet just for today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for your new rug.
Always prepared.
And just let your eyes close. And let your body be heavy. And take a couple breaths here. Letting your body sink and settle down into the floor. And I find that the simple shaking and shifting of the body is wonderful to harness the natural kind of stress hormones that we have upon waking up. Right? Chemically, we've got more cortisol in our bodies upon waking. And so this shifting and shaking in this manner will direct that flow of kind of chemical energy through the body. So you can hug your knees into your chest. Maybe slightly start to shift side to side. And then at this point, I tend to kind of kick the covers off of me and lift my feet up towards the ceiling. You can keep a soft bend in your knees. And you can start to shift your feet and your toes a little bit, kind of wiggling and hinging at the ankles. And now the purpose of this shaking is to kind of disconnect from any habitual movement pattern that you might already have ingrained in your body. And so as you let the movement from your feet start to resonate a little bit through your knees and your kind of middle legs, there is no wrong way to do this. And in fact, kind of being a little bit weird and non-habitual with the movement is really great, but I do recommend starting easy. Okay.
Ease into your weirdness.
Ease into the weirdness. Embrace it. But be easy weird. And if you see me, I'm slightly kind of rocking my knees in and out. Kind of like if you were going to do the Charleston, kind of in and out with your knees.
Supine Charleston.
It's been a while since I've Charlestoned. And then you can increase the momentum, maybe even kind of moving your heels towards your hips. I always imagine here like a child at the checkout stand having a tantrum because they want candy. But the slapping of the heels towards the backs of the hamstrings, back of the glutes, is already starting to bring a lot more blood flow. Yeah.
This is what I do if they're out of toilet paper when I get to the grocery store.
Yeah. This
Lie
is
on the floor.
Exactly what I do. And then you can slowly release that and bring your feet to the floor. Keep your knees bent. And notice what you notice in your lower legs, knees, ankles, feet. So it's really important to couple the movements, right? The moments rather of really great movement and moments of deep stillness. Okay, we'll start with the arms. You can reach your hands up to the ceiling and you can start to wiggle your fingers and your wrists. And you can let that rolling become untethered a bit, moving through your elbows and your shoulders. So we start with an easy quality because as we are shaking and shifting, we do want there to be some playfulness, some joy, rather than aggression, right? And what's also really great is to move in a way that you probably have never moved before. It's a creative, it's an inventive situation. You can really bend your elbows, kind of like how we bent at the knees. So, yes, as I start in bed, just moving my limbs. And then you can release your arms. Find some stillness. And for many, they find that deep breathing is inaccessible right at the beginning. But as we start to move, that will necessitate more oxygen through our body, and our breath will naturally follow with us. You can straighten your legs out in front of you. Let's see if you can actually see my feet. I'll shift back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to point and flex my feet with my heels on the ground. And what this is doing is it's creating also a sympathetic rocking in my pelvis, forward and back, forward and back. And then I'll shift forward so you can see my head. Then there's also going to be a sympathetic nodding of my head forward and back. And all of this kind of wave-like movement is happening from the feet, shifting forward and back. And the pelvis and the head are just following along. Okay. And then you can release that Return to stillness. And then you'll turn your head to the right. We'll just notice our natural range of movement in our neck spine. Turn your chin over your right. And again, still keeping your body rather heavy, notice what you notice in turning your head one direction. And then come back to the center. And we'll do this over to the other side, just turning your head. And then you'll come back to the center. And we'll do one more thing here on our backs. You can take your arms up kind of like in a Y shape. So you're making an X out of your body. Your feet are rather wide. So if you were potentially on a mat, your feet would be wider than a mat. Your arms are much wider than your shoulders. And then you're going to cross your right ankle over your left leg and reach with your right leg down and forward. So you're moving on a diagonal. The right arm, the right shoulder are very heavy, but the right hip can start to peel off of the floor, giving more length to the right foot and leg. So it's almost as if you could pull the right leg out of the socket, mapping with a cross-linear axis of the body. And then come back to the center, let your right leg flop. Yeah. And then do the second side. So leave the right leg where it is, cross the left leg over the right. Extend the left leg forward, down. And as the left leg, in its momentum, reaching forward and down, it will start to lift the left glute off of the ground. But the left rib cage is heavy, the left shoulder, elbow, and hand are on the ground, resisting the momentum of the leg. And then you can come back to the center. There you go. And then let's do the arms. Cross your right arm across your chest. And as your right arm reaches towards your left hand, the right rib cage will start to peel off of the ground, but your right hip and right leg are now resistant. So we definitely work a lot in, polarity, that sense of what is moving, what is stable. And then release that, come back to your X shape. And then the left arm, final side, crosses. Left leg heavy, left hip heavy. It's okay if the glute peels off of the floor as well here, but there is that sense of oppositional extension as you twist. And then you'll come back to the center. And before getting up, notice what you've noticed in our moving so far. Right? Moving provides a lot of feedback. And as well as being on the ground, right? We've got the most amount of feedback here across our whole posterior chain. Okay, you'll hug your knees into your chest and just, roll on out of bed. Let's come up to stand. So you just got out of bed and you went to stand. That's what you do, right?
That's what one does.
It's what one does. And as you're standing on your feet, right, no need to change or manipulate anything. We'll do just a quick observation of what our heads are turning like today. Again, turn and look over your right shoulder. And when we were on our backs, against the floor, we couldn't turn our bodies, but now you're much more mobile, you're much more free. You can turn your head, looking to the right, and then let your ribs turn Let even your pelvis turn so that you can look kind of behind you. The feet stay planted, maybe even one of your knees bend, so that there is this turning. And then you'll come back to the center. And then go on over to the second side. So start with your head first. And then your ribs will follow. Pelvis follows. The right knee maybe bends. And you might even also turn your eyes and your sockets. So, and then come back to the center. If you want to do that one more time each side, you're welcome to. Turn your eyes, turn your head. And notice if there is a slight difference between sides. Right, all of this noticing is just about information. Okay, and then you come back to the center and we'll start to shake a little bit more through the body. Keep your feet on the ground and find your knees and start to bounce and give body weight down into the ground. Okay, and let that kind of shaking move up through into your shoulders, into your elbows, into your wrists. And then you can take this one leg at a time. And as you take this one leg at a time, the hips will start to shift laterally a little bit. Just kind of exploring. You can always put on music when you do this too. Play a Rocky Heron dance mix. And then
thing you can shake to.
Yeah, you just want to shake to it. We're going to continue shaking for the next minute. Again, there's no wrong way to do this. And in fact, the way that we're doing this is to try to get out of our habitual kind of movement patterns of holding. You can even move your head. My hair is going to come out. And you'll notice that the breath is there for you. So it's not anything that you have to manifest or manipulate, but that the breath is already naturally flowing through the body. So, I mean, you could even make sound easily if you wanted to. We're all in our homes doing weird stuff. It's great.
And then people can tune in right now.
I know, right?
Yeah. Welcome.
I mean, we're just doing this for like a minute or two, but you can definitely, this is yoga, right? You can definitely do this for like 5 to 6 minutes.
7? Not 7?
Not 7. No, you could do it for some time. You could do it for 8 minutes, 9 minutes, whatever. You could do it for some time because you'll notice that you're getting tired, you know? And the longer that you do it, I find that the pathways that are the deepest kind of in there, ingrained, start to get restructured. Okay, come back to stillness, come back to standing, close your eyes. And notice what you notice. We'll do one more thing here standing before we'll take it down to sitting. So often people, this is what I've observed too in my clients who have, you know, working, functioning eyes. They're not certainly aware of the imbalances they have right and left side. So this is a great way to just kind of connect into that whole ocular neural chain, kinetic chain down through the sides of the body. So you're just going to lift one heel and then lift your foot. And the knee doesn't have to be super high. It's just so that we're standing on one leg. And then you're going to bring your right hand, so same arm as leg, over your right eye. And notice if there's any shift. And then release your hand, release your leg. Then you can do it to the second side. This is the side where I close my seeing eye. And so I can notice how much my body already takes care of me in recalibrating balance without using vision. But we'll do
I'll
that.
close both eyes to be in solidarity with you, Sarah.
We're going to actually do that this next round. Yeah. So switch sides. And you're welcome to just close your eyes. But I actually like the weight and the slight pressure of my palms on the ocular ridge. And then you can release that. And this is really good I work with a lot of clients focusing on balance. So as you do this, really in the beginning of your day, aim for a count of like 10, that you're balancing on one leg. And then come on back, feeling both feet on the ground, both arms next to you. And you can do this standing meditation, this standing presence, either eyes open, but keep your eyeballs still, or your eyelids closed, but still your eyeballs are still. Okay. And then you're going to come back to sit. How are we doing? I want to do us one more thing and then take us into breath. Are we good with that? I have no concept of time anymore. Okay.
It's about 9:30, so.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. We're going to do something for sitting to increase the ease and rotation through our thoracic, connected to our head and neck. And then we're going to do some breathing. How are you doing so far?
Great.
I
could have shaking after this call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just keep shaking all day.
I've forgotten the bliss that is shaking.
Yeah, and so much is released through the body in terms of, it's great. So can't really see how I'm sitting. That's not going to help either. It's like a modified Vajrasana, or kind of like a staggered seat with my left shin in front of me, and my right leg left next to me.
Are you like this?
And yeah, if this is not available in your knee range and your knee flexion, you're welcome to adjust. You're also welcome to do this seated in a chair if you'd like. I like this particular seat. Yeah, thank you, Rocky. Because there is an asymmetry in the lateral movement, the lateral plane of the pelvis. The right hip is slightly higher than the left, and that's eventually going to help us in our turning, in our shifting. So you're going to bring
switch sides? Are you on the?
I have the left leg in front. Yeah. Then you're going to bring your left hand in front of your face with your elbow lifted about shoulder height. And what this is doing is it's giving your hand something to look at. So your eyes are going to be consistent and stable, and then your head and neck, it's all going to be connected in the same way. So you're going to start to turn your elbow, and that's going to bring your head and your chest with you as you start to turn. And again, this is all easy. It's not about how deep we can go in the twist. It's about what feels comfortable in your range today, and then come back to the center. And do that again a couple more times. Turning. And what we've basically done is we've created kind of a fixed alignment, eyes to head, to neck, to ribs. And notice if your eyes want to wander. They don't want to stay still. That's natural. Let's do this one more time. And then you can drop your left arm, and we'll start to initiate the turn now from the eyes. So you're going to turn your eyes to the left and keep turning to the left with your head and neck, and then ribs. And as your right hip is already lifted, you might look behind you and then come back. Ribs, neck, chin, eyes. And do that again. All right, look first. It's weird, but it's natural as well. Cool. And I'm going to have you lay down onto your back before we go to the second side. Just so that you can, again, receive the most amount of feedback from the floor and notice anything or notice what you notice. And then you'll come back up to sit for the second side. So the right leg will come into front. Right hand in front of your face. And you'll look at your face, you'll look at your palm, elbow widens. And come back. And do this a couple times. So this exercise is actually inspired by a few people. The Feldenkrais method. My dear friend Caitlin Casella, who's a teacher in New York City, she has a great podcast called Practice Human. And also the first time I ever learned to use my hand as like a spotting reference was by a modern dance teacher over at Pomona College, John Pennington. And he really helped me in kind of my foundational movement practice as a teenager. And then you can release your right hand and you'll turn just your eyes first. And then you'll turn your chin. And then you can turn your ribs. And let the left hip rise as you twist. And then the left hip comes down. Turn through your ribs. Keep looking right until your neck moves, head, and eventually your eyes. And do that one more time. There you go. And then I'll have you lay down onto your back.
Thanks, Heron. So the ultimate pose in which you can notice what you notice, so to speak, pose of repose is Shavasana. Pose of integration and assimilation. So especially these somatic movements that explore different different options that you can use to organize, to kind of self-organize. While they may be subtle, they can be quite profound, somewhat like the practice of gratitude. It can be a subtle shift in your perspective, in your perception, that can create profound result. So, depending on your familiarity with these movements, if it's kind of like, as Sarah said, like there's a weirdness to it, but it's also natural, right? This is how we learn to move, by relating with our environment in a visual sense, and letting our body sort of follow that trail of our perception. So all that's to say, giving yourself a few minutes time to rest and just to receive and just to be. Your body is proficient and intelligent enough to kind of sift and sort these movements into something meaningful. So give yourself a few minutes to chill.
Since my morning practice begins a lot with vibrant movement, once in a state of downward grounding, the breath practice of Viloma 1 for me is the perfect crescendo, or decrescendo, I should say. Loma means hair, V means against. So Viloma 1 is an interrupted, broken up breath pattern. And in this one, we'll be breaking up the inhale in 3 parts. And in the Iyengar methodology, Viloma breathing is practiced supine. So you're perfect as you are. Of course, if at any point throughout the breath practice you notice your body gripping or over-efforting, then you can release from the pattern and return to your natural cadence. Inhale just 1/3 of your capacity and pause. Inhale a second third and pause. Inhale to the top of your capacity, pause, suspending the breath, and then exhale completely, letting it go in one release, heaviness, groundedness. And you can repeat again, inhaling 1/3 and pause, inhaling 1/3 and pause, inhaling to the top and pause, and then exhale heavily and completely. And continue in this manner on your own. Release from any pattern of breathing that you might still be in. And let your body rest.
Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Durgaye Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Shri Ramajaya Rama. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Shri Ramajaya Rama. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Durgaye Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Shri Ramajaya Rama. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Shri Ramajaya Rama. Rama. Begin to deepen your breath. If this is your morning practice, you get multiple risings today. You're rising out of bed, you're rising from our supine practices, and now a third rising from Shavasana. our yoga practice sort of reminds us that we can always begin again. We can always sort of symbolically be reborn again. Each of these new risings, these new breaths, and these new awarenesses that are cultivated are a reminder of that fact. So, in whatever way feels organic to you, you can stretch and roll and bring yourself back upright to a seated position. Notice who you are, notice what you are, notice what you notice as a result of our practices. And as you return back to a seat, let's take a collective breath in through our nose. Let it go through your mouth. Let's merge our voices around the world with one collective sound of Om. Join your palms together in front of your sternum. And inhale deeply. Lift your heart and bow your head. And as always, offer this gesture of gratitude to yourself. There's much that we can be grateful for in these times, including ourselves and our willingness to continue to pursue clarity, well-being, growth, expansion, and collective healing. These practices are optional, and the decision to engage in them is one worthy of deep respect and gratitude. I extend my gratitude and deep respect to my dear friend and colleague, Sarah Girard. Thank you for sharing your gifts with us this morning. And thank you all for joining us. You can lift your chin and open your eyes. Peace, love, gratitude. Mucho namaste.
Thank you. Mucho namaste.
Wonderful. So let the folks know where they can learn more about you and access more of what you are offering these days.
Absolutely. I can be found on sarahgirardyoga.com. If you opt in for my newsletter, which I highly recommend that you do, because there's so much information that you can gain, hi Candy, from that. But if you do sign up for my newsletter, you get a guided body scan meditation that you can do. Also, I have a whole library of recorded and live streamed videos on my website. I'm offering 2 live streams, one meditation that I'm actually going to be doing tonight, and then one on Saturday mornings, which is a full hour practice. And the recorded videos are just, highlighting the work that I do with my clients, the therapeutic work that I do, the somatic work, highlighting the spine, the hips, and the shoulders. And then there's a whole series about starting your home practice, which is much more asana based. You can kind of imagine that it's much more kind of commercially yoga, if you will.
We call it regular yoga.
Regular yoga,
Yeah.
Home practicing.
Shout out to Emily Gatesman if she's on the call.
Got it. Hi. But it's all wonderful and useful and necessary. So find me over there. You can also connect with me here, Sarah Girard Yoga.
It's always it's always interesting circling back around to our teaching journeys and our influences and our trajectories have intersected in the times that they have, but it's cool to come together and experience your teaching right now and the similarities, like heel rocking and somatics and this whole kind of realm of movement. Like someone was just making fun of me the other day for how often I say notice what you notice.
Yeah, I know. I just keep on saying it. Notice what you notice.
Yeah, and I'm like,
all the time because it's so important. Because so often we think that it has to be so much more, intellectual and nuanced and creative, and it's just like, well, what's happening right now?
Right. Well, and I think the way that so many of us have been introduced to the concept of movement is through this lens of right and wrong, or danger and safety.
Yeah.
And of course, like if you're weight training or if you're doing things that have a specific goal in mind, there might be a margin of error worth examining. But in a lot of the things that we do under the umbrella of yoga, I think this ability to, I mean, as with everything we do, including the journal prompts each day, today's kind of the first day that we've gone after something more specifically like gratitude, but I've really tried to keep these kind of open to interpretation, meaning like you might notice that today you feel sad, you might notice that today you feel really happy, you might notice that you're feeling grief. And from that place of awareness, then you can make the next decision and the next decision, and hopefully those decisions are ones that bring us more options as opposed to limiting the options. So that was really beautiful. And who knew, I guess you did, but who knew how wonderful it could feel to just shake?
Yeah, it's really amazing, and it's really healing. And I, as we do start to shake and move our bodies in kind of non-habitual, unconscious, ways, as we move throughout the day, and as we do more of this kind of shaking work, if it's something that you choose to do, then I would definitely recommend for us to be excessively gentle with ourselves, because we can kind of, be shook in a certain way that we might have been, holding in. And that's why
the word shooketh.
We are shooketh. That's what I did for us today.
Shooketh flow.
But in a way that we can unearth some things that might still need to be processed or released or cleansed through us. And so as we do proceed in this way in our lives as softer, gentler, more grounded, more aware people, and we're noticing the stuff that comes up, just making that space for it to come through is really powerful, and can, I think, is really the opportunity, as we talked about right when we first both started going to isolation, that this time, this period is a deep calling and a chapter for us all to expand and up level, and to really readjust and maybe tell different stories that we've been telling at a very subconscious, foundational level. And that, to me, the shaking is something that is it's physical, but it's something that is also working on the energetic plane as well.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I there's a minute left on this before it savagely cuts us off, which I don't want it to do to us again. But I love you so much, and thank you for sharing your light with us and with the world. And let's keep going deep. Let's keep digging up the stuff and shaking it out, and we'll keep looking to you for inspiration and guidance. So much love.
Bye.
Peace, you guys. Ooh, shake it out. We'll just shake until it cuts us off.
Shake. This is a long minute.
Yeah. Okay. We said we could do it for 6 minutes, so.
Yeah, let's do it. Excessively gentle with ourselves. Gentle shaking.